Welcome back on air with Chris Shanafelt, and it is a pleasure to welcome onto the show now. You can follow him on Twitter. He's Flo Ottis at Flo_OTTIS. Also the host of the Bears Uncaged podcast. A lot of excitement surrounding the Chicago Bears, and the last handful of our podcasts have focused on the Chicago Bears, and we're going to do that even more here this morning with Flo. Flo, thank you very much for taking some time this morning. How's everything going, man?
Going well, man. How's everything going with you?
Doing great. Again, a lot of excitement surrounding this franchise, which brings me to our first topic. And again, this is a topic I've kicked off just about every show within the past week with, and that's Khalil Mack. A week ago today, the Bears were somehow able to finagle a way to acquire arguably the best defensive player in the NFL, certainly in the discussion with names such as Aaron Donald and Von Miller, and that of course being Khalil Mack, the 27-year-old pass rusher from the Oakland Raiders, former number 5 overall pick out of Buffalo. 40 career sacks in 4 seasons, over 300 tackles. Hasn't missed a game yet in his career. I've made it known how I feel about this trade. I feel it's a home run, and again, the Bears did have to give up 2 first-round picks and then some to acquire Khalil Mack, and they're also able to steal a second-round pick from the Oakland Raiders as well. I mean, I think this was really just a home run trade acquisition by the Chicago Bears. Obviously there has been rumors circling Khalil Mack's name over the last handful of weeks. They seem to have really picked up. I never really bought into it until I woke up last Saturday morning and I seen the news become official that Khalil Mack was dealt to the Chicago Bears. Here we are now, a little bit more than 24 hours before the first game of the regular season at Green Bay, and I feel like this was a move that really, there's already a lot of excitement surrounding the Chicago Bears. I feel this upped it another notch or two, and there's even more excitement surrounding the franchise. So, Flo, let me ask you, 1 week ago today, what was your initial reaction when you first heard the breaking news that Khalil Mack was traded to the Chicago Bears? And again, some days later, how do you has your mood or has your feelings changed about the trade?
I mean, it was just nuts to me. I mean, the timing was nuts for me. It was when I least expected it. I woke up, I had just some cereal, and thank God I didn't choke on it because it came out of nowhere, actually. And my girlfriend actually called me pretty much right after it happened, and she didn't know what was going on. She doesn't follow football or anything, but she probably heard me breathing heavily, and she was like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, I didn't even have an answer for that. I mean, I was fine. My head was fine. I was ecstatic, but I just couldn't believe it. Just medically, I wasn't sure what was going on at that point. And I mean, at some point, you're going to have to start breathing and stop running in circles, I guess. So it was definitely an experience I will never forget. It was rare, and I guess it's normally hyperventilate a little bit when you get a game changer of his caliber. So. He really does change the game for the Bears. Now, a week later, it still hasn't sunk in completely that the Bears now that he's a Bear now. But I guess that'll come with week 1. But still really excited. Still watching Khalil Mack highlights on YouTube. I guess he's already 5th in jersey sales or something like that. So yeah. I guess pretty much everyone feels the same way about him being a Bear. But yeah, after a week, when it slowly starts to sink in and you start to realize, hey, we didn't only get an elite pass rusher, but also a guy who can do incredible things against the run. So it's a different kind of excitement for me now. At first, you were like, oh, my God, Khalil Mack is in a Bears uniform. And then it sort of turned into, oh, my God, Ryan Pace robbed the Raiders. And now I'm just looking forward to him hitting quarterbacks left and right, especially old number 12 over there in Crumble and Titletown. So that'll be exciting.
And hopefully we see a lot of that tomorrow. Not really sure exactly how much of Khalil Mack we will see tomorrow night. But regardless, I mean, like you said, already number 5 in jersey sales this preseason. and it still hasn't really hit me either, Flo. I mean, seeing pictures float around of him in practice in Bears gear made it feel a little bit more real, but I don't think it'll really hit me until tomorrow night, and hopefully we see good old number 52 running around there, and maybe hitting number 12, Aaron Rodgers, a couple of times in the
Absolutely.
backfield. So tomorrow, the Chicago Bears, they kick off the regular season, Sunday Night Football at Lambeau Field against the rival Green Bay Packers. It's been said by a lot of guys out there, Flo. I mean, and I kind of echo that same sentiment in that I don't know when the last time I've been this excited for a Bears season opener, for the Bears season to kick off. You look at what they've been able to do in the off season, and you just look at the turnover from last year to this year on this roster. And there's a lot of new faces, a lot of new names, and a lot of experience as well, specifically on offense, what they were able to do, bringing in guys like an Allen Robinson, like a Taylor Gabriel, Trey Burton at tight end. This is a totally different team, not to mention the head coach, Matt Nagy, coming over from Kansas City, controlling a very successful offense over there with Alex Smith and company, coming from that Andy Reid coaching tree. So this is going to be a new experience for Matt Nagy as well. Obviously, he's got 5 preseason games under his belt, but now we're going to see what this offense has really worked on in the offseason and how he's been able to implement this new, totally different type of RPO, Andy Reid offense here in Chicago. What are some of the things you're going to be looking for out of the offense tomorrow night at Green Bay? And, what exactly is this squad going to have to do to leave Green Bay with a victory?
Well, I think we should expect a lot of aggressiveness. I think Matt Nagy has made it clear that Trubisky has the freedom now to take shots down the field. Trey Burton will be a focal piece of this offense right away, I believe. We'll probably see a couple of screens early in the game. I think we'll see short completions, just getting in a rhythm, finding the matchups outside, split backfield play action, that kind of stuff, end arounds. I think we'll see a ton of creativity right away. And I think Nagy knows how important this game is against the Packers, so he's not going to hold back, and he'll ask a lot out of this offense. But I don't think we'll see a finished product right away. I mean, there's so many moving parts in Nagy's offense that can definitely lead to confusion, and not everything will click right away. Like we saw with Tariq Cohen, for example, he's a spectacular playmaker, but he's also only in his second year in the NFL. And as talented as he is, you tell him to line up in the slot, and then you tell him to line up outside, on top of being such an important piece of this 1-2 punch in the run game. That's a lot to ask for any player. Like we saw in preseason, Tariq Cohen didn't finish his route, and that led to an interception. So you really need to know the playbook like the back of your hand. Trubisky will make mistakes, in my opinion, just a little bit here and there. And even though he's familiar with some of the RPO stuff from his time at UNC, but Nagy's offense is unique. It's especially with Mark Helfrich and his input and his creativity. And this offense is not meant to be easy. And then you have, veterans like Trey Burton or Taylor Gabriel, who I believe will have things figured out right away tomorrow. And, everyone else will get there eventually. But I expect a few mistakes from the young guys, which is totally fine. Luckily, though, because there's so many moving parts, it'll also be a lot to handle for opposing defenses. So when mistakes happen tomorrow, I assume they will also happen on both sides of the football. So, yeah. That's
Flo Ottis at FLO_OTTIS that you are hearing break down the Chicago Bears with me, Chris Shanafelt. Again, check out his podcast as well, Bears Uncaged. You can find that information there on his Twitter account. He is a great follow for all Chicago Bears news and analysis. Now, Flo, talking a little bit about the offense, Ryan Pace has made it known that, last year's offense, just based off the moves that Ryan Pace has done throughout the offseason, it looks like last year's offense needed a lot of work. Obviously, he brings in an offensive-minded head coach. There's a lot of new faces on the offense, a lot of new weapons surrounding Mitchell Trubisky. Last year's receiving corps was really laughable when looking at it, with guys such as the unfortunate injury to Cam Meredith. He looked as if he was turning into a really solid NFL wide receiver. We'll see what he does in New Orleans. Then once he went down, Kevin White, he eventually goes down. You got guys like Kendall Wright, who put up a pretty solid season last year, led the team in receptions. He's currently a free agent after being released recently by the Minnesota Vikings. Josh Bellamy's still with the squad, probably the last receiver, number 6 on the depth chart, and he was seeing meaningful snaps. So just looking at the work that Ryan Pace did to kind of construct this offense for 2018, you knew that a lot of work was going to be needed to be done, and that's exactly what he was able to do, bringing in Allen Robinson, Taylor Gabriel, trading back into the second round to acquire Anthony Miller out of Memphis in the NFL draft, bringing in Trey Burton. A lot of new faces, a lot of excitement with those new weapons, and a lot of with those new faces come expectations, and we've seen what some of those guys were able to do in their old homes and on their old teams. And obviously, we expect even more out of them here in Chicago. The acquisition, though, of Khalil Mack, though, Flo, this means that this team is ready to win now, or certainly ready to compete and push for a playoff spot right now. At least you got to think that's what Ryan Pace is thinking. The defense was looking like they'd already be a top 10, top 12 defense like they were a year ago. With the addition of Khalil Mack, playing opposite side of Leonard Floyd on the same defensive line with Akeem Hicks and a newly extended now Eddie Goldman, and you could go on and on with some of those guys and how well they've played over the years. Does this mean that Mitchell Trubisky needs to step it up in year 2? How much higher our expectations now for Mitchell Trubisky after specifically the offensive additions in the offseason and now bringing in a guy like Khalil Mack and giving up what you needed to give up to acquire Khalil Mack?
I don't think it raises expectation. I think there was a lot of pressure on Mitch before that, just the fact that the Bears traded up for him in the draft. So the whole league was pretty much skeptical right off the bat. So I think there's been expectations from day one. I don't think that has changed, and I don't think that has the expectations or the pressure on Mitch Trubisky has increased since the Khalil Mack trade. I think, if anything, it takes pressure off of Mitch. A great defense, especially a great pass rush or a great offense, the new offensive pieces for that matter as well. But especially with Khalil Mack, a great pass, your young franchise quarterback. If your defense is dominant, and it certainly is now with Khalil Mack on the team, that gets your quarterback on the field more often. More defensive stops also means more snaps for your quarterback. And, to have a larger quantity of snaps, that helps your young quarterback a lot. So I think we'll see more mistakes from him, but we'll also see more good plays, and all of that and the quantity of snaps that will also speed up his development, I believe. So I don't think expectations are higher now because, the Bears defense will be in the spotlight more than Trubisky and his offense, in my opinion. So Khalil Mack doesn't only help the whole team. I also believe that Trubisky will be one of the main beneficiaries with Khalil Mack now on the team.
It's funny. It seems like the Bears have kind of been playing the Green Bay Packers all off season long. In free agency, the Packers had interest in signing Allen Robinson. The Bears are able to snatch him up. Before that, when this coaching staff was kind of in flux and you weren't sure what direction the Bears were going to go in, the Bears hire Matt Nagy, and Nagy made it a point to bring back Vic Fangio on a new contract, and the Packers had interest there as well. They tried to sign Kyle Fuller. They signed him to an offer sheet. The Bears right away matched that offer sheet. And then, of course, there was interest there with Khalil Mack as well. They finally square off on the field this Sunday at Lambeau Field. What are your expectations for the game, Flo? I have some pretty high expectations for the Bears this year, especially after last week's trade. I'm thinking certainly 9 wins is a possibility, maybe even 10-6. But I got to admit, and it hurts me to say, I think Green Bay probably gets the win tomorrow night. I'm thinking maybe 24-23. I could see Green Bay sneaking it out by 1 win. Again, I hope I'm wrong, but you're going up against Aaron Rodgers. You're bringing in a defense with certainly some star power in Khalil Mack. Again, we don't know how much he'll play. Roquan Smith, he'll probably play even less, playing that inside linebacker position opposite side of Danny Trevathan. I'm not exactly sure what to expect out of the defense tomorrow. I have high hopes for the offense against this Green Bay defense, although I do expect the defense to be improved there for the Packers with Mike Pettin at defensive coordinator, bringing in Muhammad Wilkerson and addressing the secondary very early on in the NFL draft. If I was a betting man, I think I'd go Green Bay tomorrow night. What are your what do you think happens tomorrow night, Sunday Night Football at Lambeau Field?
Well, I think the Bears can win it. I actually think they have a good shot at a W tomorrow, and I notice will be Matt Nagy's first regular season game, of course, as an NFL head coach, and it's a big one against the Cheeseheads, right? But first year Bears head coaches seem to have a pretty decent history against the Packers at Lambeau Field the last two decades in their first game at Lambeau. So I mean, Lovie Smith in 2004, the Bears won it 21-10, I think. And then Trestman did it in his first year. And then Thanksgiving in 2015, which was John Fox's debut at Lambeau and Brett Favre's big night, apparently. But we all know it turned into a big day for Bears fans and Tracy Porter and Jay Cutler. So I think that pretty much tells us that all bets are off when the Bears play the Packers pretty much at Lambeau, at Soldier Field. It really doesn't matter. Now, there's never really a favorite to win the game. And with that being said, I'm looking at the front seven. The secondary is great, especially Kyle Fuller and Prince Amukamara. And then you look at, the other pieces they have. But talking about Kyle Fuller and Prince Amukamara, they look like legit lockdown corners, in my opinion. And the pieces they've added on offense. I wouldn't even say the Bears are the underdogs in this game tomorrow. Looking at the roster, the Bears are not behind here. I actually think they have a pretty good chance of winning this thing. Now, what will they need in order to make that happen? I think they'll need a stable and consistent pass rush. And before the Khalil Mack trade, I was kind of like, do they check all the boxes? Do they check those two boxes? Consistent run and a good passing, rushing game. But now that changes everything. With Khalil Mack being a Bear. Now they check that second box. And I know a lot of people like to say that it comes down to either having Aaron Rodgers and not having Aaron Rodgers. But I think it comes down to, do you have the playmakers? Do you have the players who can win the game for you? And the Bears have those players on offense and on defense. And then, you combine that with Nagy's creativity on offense and Fangio's style of defense. That's bad news for the Packers, honestly. So without having having to be biased here, I think the Bears have a pretty good shot at starting the season 1-0, and I think they have what they need in order to do that.
Well, I certainly think they do have a shot, and you make some great points, and you're starting to talk me into even more being more optimistic about this Bears team and their chances tomorrow night. That's for sure. And one thing that you said, just looking at the playmakers on both teams' rosters, you can certainly make an argument that the Bears have more playmakers, at least right now on paper. We haven't seen many of them in the preseason, but knowing what they're capable of doing, you can make that argument that the Bears do have more playmakers than the Green Bay Packers. But like you said, number 12, Aaron Rodgers, is playing opposite side at quarterback. Again, nonetheless, it should be a great game, and we know what this rivalry is all about, and especially over the last couple of years, seeing what the Bears and this organization has been through, not a lot of winning. Hopefully that changes beginning tomorrow night at Lambeau Field against the Green Bay Packers. Obviously, the Khalil Mack trade has kind of taken some attention off of number one pick Roquan Smith, the linebacker out of Georgia. He is listed second behind Nick Witkowski at that inside linebacker position. Do you expect him to play much tomorrow? I mean, should we expect him to start out there? I mean, what are your expectations for Roquan Smith to start the season?
Well, I actually thought that Roquan would start week 1, but as you said, Nick Witkowski is the starter on the depth chart right now. I think Roquan should be the starter, but I mean, especially after Witkowski he was still out there in the third quarter in preseason week 4, and you don't really do that when you're sure that guy is your week 1 starter. But now he is the starter, Witkowski, and I think he'll see a lot of snaps. I think Roquan will get his share of snaps. I think he'll get more snaps than people expect him to get. But overall, I think the plan is to sort of ease him into the system. And but they'll try and be quick about it. They'll make sure that he knows that he's the starter sooner rather than later. And Nick Witkowski definitely has to show up. I think Roquan will actually see. He can see some snaps tomorrow. I think he'll see more than people actually expect, and he should. I mean, he's the best inside linebacker alongside Danny Trevathan, so he should definitely be out there a lot tomorrow, especially against the Packers. And I think he's had enough rest so far. I think he looks fine. I think he practiced the last 3 practices. He practiced in full, so he's ready to go. And yeah, he wasn't just sitting on his butt all day. I mean, he's ready, and he's ready for this rivalry, and I think we can expect some Roquan tomorrow.
That is good news. That is certainly what Bears fans want to hear. Couple more questions for you, Flo, then we'll let you go. Really do appreciate your time this morning. Cody Parkey, this is a guy with $9 million guaranteed on his contract, and at least in the preseason, it's kind of been rough goings for him. If the game does indeed come down to a Cody Parkey, let's say 49, 50-yard field goal, are you confident he kicks it through and Bears win the game?
A week ago, I would have said probably not. A week ago, I would have been really mad after a miss, because I think he had a couple of misses in training camp. I mean, he struggled in training camp, and he had 3 misses in preseason. But I think Cody Parkey is ready. I believe in his $15 million leg, if you will, and he better make that field goal. I mean, against the Packers, that would be a catastrophe. I mean, if I said he wouldn't make that field goal, I think we'd have a riot on our hands, because he should absolutely make that field goal. I mean, the Bears paid him $15 million. He should make that field goal. I'm confident in him.
Ever since they let go of Robbie Goldman, it's been rough goings for that kicking position for the Chicago Bears. We know what they went through with Connor Barth last year and the last couple of years. Hopefully, Cody Parkey starts to turn things around, and like you said, regular season Cody Parkey turns it on. Last topic I want to discuss with you, Flo. Yesterday, the Bears were in the news yet again as they came to an agreement on a contract extension with nose tackle Eddie Goldman. Another one of those big pieces on that defensive line, and many will say that nose tackle position, to have a really solid or a really good one like the Bears do in Eddie Goldman, that's like the most important piece for a Vic Fangio defense. He was signed to a 4-year extension worth $42 million, $25 million guaranteed. Makes him one of the highest paid nose tackles in the NFL. Rightfully so, well deserved. One of the more underrated pieces on the Bears defense over the last handful of years. Your reaction when you seen this news yesterday, and for those who aren't familiar with the type of impact that Eddie Goldman has had on the Bears defense, why is it important for them to lock him down when they did?
Well, first of all, the contract, 4 years, $42 million. That's $10.5 million per year. That's a lot, but it's it's just really just a tad more than I expected him to get. And if you look at the guaranteed, 25 million guaranteed isn't that bad at all, considering that he's one of the best nose tackles in the league. Like you said, he's only 24, so you have him locked up until he's 28, which is great. And he's just a massive piece in Fangio's defense. I mean, he stuffs the middle. He's so valuable against the run. He's the anchor of Fangio's defense, and having him obviously allows players around him to make plays as well. So he takes care of the dirty work. So guys like Hicks and Roquan and Mack, so they can really shine in this defense. And I heard a lot of people say they overpaid for him, but the thing with nose tackles is that if they do a good job clogging up the middle, you're going to notice that. And if he does his job well, and the players around him can really support that, and the players around him can focus more on what they do best. So by paying him $52 million, you're sort of investing in the whole front seven, if you will, because if he plays well and he's shown that he can do that, everyone else around him will play better. And it also makes a lot of sense to give him big money, give big money to a top run stuffer when you've just gone all in pretty much on arguably the best pass rusher in the game. So I think Ryan Pace has done an excellent job of addressing the pass rush, but also keeping this defense balanced and sort of glued together by locking up a run stuffer like Eddie Goldman through 2022, because he really is the anchor of this defense, and it was huge for him, huge for the Bears to lock him up till through 2022.
You got Khalil Mack, Akeem Hicks, Eddie Goldman, Leonard Floyd, Roy Robertson Harris. Hopefully we see something out of Jonathan Bullard this year. I mean, it's really amazing how quickly one of the Bears' weaknesses in terms of pass rush changed in the matter of one player. And it's a great player in Khalil Mack, and then being able to lock up Eddie Goldman, and Akeem Hicks has been great since he's arrived at Chicago. Hopefully we hear those names called out a lot tomorrow night at Lambeau Field when the Chicago Bears take on the Green Bay Packers. Again, he's Flo Ottis, and Flo, really appreciate your time today. Had a blast chatting some Chicago Bears with you. Before I let you go, please let the listeners know where they can follow you and check out your work at.
You can follow me on Twitter at FLO_OTTIS. And you can find my podcast on iTunes and Stitcher at, but just Bears Uncaged.
And again, he's one of the top Chicago Bears followers, so be sure you follow him immediately after the show, during the show, whatever works best. Certainly, Flo, really do appreciate your time. Keep up the great work, and hope to have you back on again soon.
Thank you, man. Really appreciate it. You keep up the great work, too. Definitely a great follow, and you're doing it the right way. Just keep doing what you're doing.